something.
Or she's asking questions. Like, well, this literally happened with Aaron just an hour ago. She's like starting to be like, well, how did you get arrested? I'm like, what are we doing?
What are you doing here? I just assume someone's
funny.
always listening to me.
That's funny.
Trying to do a podcast. We have not hit the record button. I'm like, Tina, stop
Tell me
talking.
more about yourself. We're here with Donna Fortson.
We are here with Donna.
She's the best. We became fast friends just months.
I feel like I've known you
months ago.
forever. I've only known you a few months.
Just a couple of months, yeah.
You came to your first forum in May.
That's right. Had a
And
great time.
I'm going to say she loved it, but I don't know if that's
She
true.
did love it.
did.
And I think we loved having her.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was fun. I sent you an email.
You did
Tell
say
you I enjoyed
Very
it.
nice.
Even the ants.
Even the
We talked about the
unexpected
ants last
ant.
night. And somebody asked me today, what kind of speakers do you bring in for this? And I
Oh,
go,
no.
like, who came and talked to your last one? I literally was like, in my mind weighing, should I bring?
Do I go there?
Maybe the last one wasn't.
And I did
best.
say, I did finally was like, well, we brought these and he goes, what? Like that confused look. And I said, he goes, how did it go? I was like, well, I don't know, other than the fact that even last night we talked about it again.
Yeah.
So I said, we're still
Right.
talking about it. And so for me, it's memorable.
Yeah.
We had a shared experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it seems like it was some knowledge that was dropped on us, and then it took a little while for everybody to kind of let
Absorb it.
absorb
Yeah.
and
Yes.
process. And then, because once we opened the doors to that, there seemed to be a lot of takeaways from the ants. That's all I'm saying.
I would agree. I made the mistake of not giving enough time and not giving time after to debrief. Because
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that'll be fun. We'll just hear about ants. We'll keep moving in my mind. And then I was like, that was a lot to process. I don't know
It
what
was
just
a lot. Oh, for reference, we had a foremost ant expert from
Yes.
Stanford University.
It was
the
fun.
world's foremost expert.
Always have to try something once.
Yeah.
It was
That's
good.
generally my motto with
I
forums.
like it when we do something a little off the beaten path. I liked the happiness fella,
the
the awe.
odd wonder.
He was great.
The science of odd
Dr.
wonder.
Keltner. He was great. And I liked Hia.
Yeah.
He was great.
I think next time I'm reading this book, How to Really Know Someone, by David Brooks, and my professor, Dr. White, gave it to me, sent it to me. My mentor and college professor, Dr. White, who we did podcasts with.
Yep.
And it's fascinating.
What have you learned? Can you drop a little beat of knowledge
You gotta
on
send
us?
me a text. Send me the name.
It's so good. I think I'm starting to I've learned a lot already. I've not finished the book about actually trying to listen to people, and I do listen to people, but also trying to understand them. One of the things that he said was that that couples who get real old together, they actually have one of the biggest challenges of not really knowing each other, because what they do is they think that the person is still the same person they were 30 or 40 years ago.
I can see that.
And so they just, everything is you've been around old people that cool couples that know each other and they're always arguing because they think that person is still the same, even though they've changed.
Right.
And so there's some of those dynamics where you're that's just fascinating, right? And they say that from meeting someone and verbal and visual cues, you could know someone 20%. You could 20% of the you'd know understand what they're giving. 20%.
Yeah. Out of 100, right?
Right.
That's
So-
a small piece.
And even family members and people you know really well, it goes up to 35%. It doesn't, it's not I read it. Oh, I think Donna's thinking this.
Yeah. So when do you truly know a person?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to that part yet.
Sounds like I'm only a couple chapters in. I'll
I
get
haven't
there.
gotten to that part, but I feel but
Oh, that's really interesting.
Dr. White was he was a professor at my graduate school for health administration, but then he became a palliative care nurse after that. And then that's what he did at Harvard. And so he taught, but he also was that person. So I'm actually thinking he doesn't know this yet, but I'm thinking, actually this morning I thought, what if we had Dr. White come and talk about that piece?
He is delightful.
Because that could be
And
really
I would
interesting.
be thrilled to meet him in person. So even if it's just for me.
So you're
I'm
going
in.
to try to bring him to the next
Yeah,
forum?
because
that would be great.
I asked him, I thought he knew David Brooks who wrote the book, and he's like, no, I don't know him. And I was like, oh, I've used his stuff, and like, but his whole thing with palliative care was like, I just need to be present with the person. And part of this book is like, says, I'm not gonna get this wrong, but like the most important thing in the world is that you try to understand people and are present in their current experience. Even if you don't know what they're like, you're just present with them. And that was a lot of the work he did in palliative care, of kind of like being with the people in this last stage.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's interesting.
That's a hard job. I wouldn't be able to do
That's
it
what my
day
sister,
in and day
that was my
Yeah.
sister's career. And then she now does reviews, chart review.
Oh, chart reviews?
Yes. But she is looking for a part-time position where she could go and still care for people, because it's like, that's where her heart is.
Yeah, that's too hard for me.
All right, Donna, how did you get into Rev Cycle?
How does anyone get in a rev cycle?
I mean, did you trip into it?
Does anyone go to school for rev
no,
cycle?
we've had this discussion.
I mean, does
times already.
anyone go,
No.
oh, I want to be a revenue cycle leader?
Only Erin, she chose it. That was her own
We
fault.
just found out.
It's funny, of course, I've been in revenue cycle so long, it wasn't revenue cycle at that time, right?
Yeah, right.
And then one day I woke up and they were like, hey, Donna, there's a job over there in revenue cycle. I was like, what is that? They're like, well, that's what you're doing. And I'm like, wait, patient financial services is no longer patient. It's almost like the hashtag, the hash key, where it was the number sign forever. And then one day you woke up and it's like hashtag.
Yeah.
That's how revenue cycle was. So yeah, so it was all an accident. Many years ago, I'm one of 5 kids, and my mom had put like 3 of my sisters through school, and then she got to me, and and she goes, ooh, no money left.
She's like, good luck.
Yeah. So, and I was like, ooh, what does that mean?
That's
so
bad. You're like, that sounds bad.
That sounds bad. So I applied to college, and I was like, oh, I got in, but how am I going to pay for it? So I decided to work after high school, and I worked at Wells Fargo in their customer service.
Yeah.
Doing services to ATM machines. So when the bank calls and say my ATM machine is down, I was the person that the bank talked to, and I sent texts to go fix nationally.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for a couple of years, and then the supervisor there was like, hey, you're really good with people. A friend of mine is working with ITT Financial, and they need an AR rep. And I was like, AR, does AR stand for something? She said, accounts receivable. I said, oh.
Perfect.
I don't know. I give it a try.
Yeah, why not?
So I went, interviewed for ITT Financial in Howard County, Maryland, and I got the job.
Wait, did you grow up in this area? Like,
Yeah, so I grew up in Maryland, in Baltimore County, Maryland. Yeah. And then I got the job, and I worked there for about a year, and I got a talk that they were laying off people. So I got laid off. They gave me a little severance package, and I cried my way through the doors.
Oh, man.
Yep.
How old are you this way?
Oh my gosh. I think I might have been maybe 20 at the time, I guess. And then I started applying like all over the place, and I had just had my new apartment, and I was just like, oh my God.
I'm so grown
I was
up
like, I
and
got my car, I got my car insurance, I moved out on my own, and I now got a job. So then a durable medical company hired me. So I started off in DME, and I was doing billing and 1,500 forms.
Yeah.
And doing, collections and talking to patients about their wheelchairs and their walkers. And I also had my vendor list where I was calling nursing homes because they were renting durable medical equipment from us. And I called this nursing home so many times because they owed me so much money. And the director said, you know what? You're pretty good. Why don't you come work for me? And I was like, nursing home? Really?
And you were
At
like,
the
you don't,
nursing home who owed you money?
yeah,
The
I was like,
nursing
you don't
home
pay your
that
bills. Why
owed
would I
me
come
money.
work for you?
That seems
So
sketch.
I'm young, I'm dumb. I was like, well, why not? I can give it a try. So I went to work for the nursing home.
Oh my
I went
gosh.
to work for
Something
a
to be
nursing
said
home,
for
a
being
nursing
young
home,
and optimistic. Let's
nursing
just
home
say
chain,
that.
a nursing home chain. I went there, hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it. I couldn't wait to get out. I would go to the bathroom, just sit there, just sit. It was like, how did I do this? Why did I do this every day? And I roughed through it for a year, and I got so desperate because in my head I said I would never ever work for another nursing home ever in my life. This is the worst thing ever. But I was so desperate to get out. I mean, the state came. It was like shutting them down, and
Yeah.
it was like
Because they
big.
weren't paying
It's
bills.
it was a big deal, yeah. And then
Oh my gosh.
I back then I was like faxing my resume all over the place, and how's it my luck? Another nursing home called me for an interview, and I was just so desperate. I said yes, I'll come. So I went for the interview, and they were like, "Hey Donna, this is your first interview. You're gonna come back for a second, and and things of that nature." Before I left, the young lady was like, "Let me see, can I get you a second one now?" And I was like, "Sure." So I did my whole second interview, and a week later they hired me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hope I made the right decision." But I wanted to get the heck out of that other place, so I went to the nursing home, and 6 months working, I found out I was pregnant. I was like, oh
no.
my gosh. I was told my husband, I said, oh my gosh, because we were just newly married.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I just got here and I'm pregnant. So I was very nervous, and my husband and I, we had miscarried the first time. So this was a blessing for us. So I waited, and I told my boss, and I just said, you know what? This is a blessing for us. I said, I don't know why it happened now. Probably because I wasn't as stressed out as I was, right?
Right.
And they were just open arms, and they said, hey, Donna, don't worry about anything. You'll have a job, and don't worry about anything. But the craziest thing happened. In that short period of time, I had already made my mark and already done the job and turned over some things that I must have impressed several people. The CEO of the nursing home came and met with me, and he said to me, hey, Donna, I heard you were concerned about, the pregnancy. You go out and you have that baby. When you come back, you come work for me. So I actually,
She might have impressed him.
left the
Maybe.
nursing home. I was
Wow.
physically in the nursing home. Oh, I was physically in the nursing home and working. And when I had my first daughter, I went back to the corporate office, and I worked directly for the CEO.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I worked for the CEO. So remember when I started my journey, right? I didn't go to college, right?
Right.
And the CEO, he said, if you can do anything in the world, what would you do? And I was like, go back to school. And he was like, well, why aren't you going back to school? I was like, well, I'm having this baby.
Right. I have a baby and
I just
full-time
had this
job.
baby. How am I going to do? And he said, well, if I pay for it, would you go? And I
Yeah.
said, yeah. So I went to community college.
Who is
I
this
went
guy?
to the community college.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I went to the community college, and I was taking some courses, some night courses and everything. And I guess maybe 2 years later, I was going part-time. I was pregnant again. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant again, and I'm not going to finish school because how can I go to school with 2 kids? So I was really nervous, and he was so good to me. He came in my office, and he goes, what's going on? You seem I said, he goes, have you been crying? I said, I just got a lot going
crying in
on.
baseball.
I got a lot going on. I'm pregnant again. He was like, isn't that a good thing? And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to have to drop out of
Enthusiasm.
school. And I said, I did find a college that you can go on nights and weekends, but it costs so much money. And he was like, well, if money wasn't an object, would you continue to go? I said, absolutely. He goes, well, you have no problems. I was
Again,
blessed.
who is this?
I
Who
was,
is this person?
I was blessed.
Are you still friends with this person today?
I was blessed that he actually, I went to Notre Dame, Maryland, Catholic college, to their weekend program.
Yeah.
And I was able to go through college and graduate. And he paid for my college. You know, so you know when we talk about giving back and you talk about employees, you know, I really pride myself on not being a leader is one thing, right? But I want to change people's lives because that's what someone did for me, right? If I didn't have that opportunity, I wouldn't have never had the opportunity to go get my master's. I wouldn't have never had the opportunity to get the jobs that I have today if someone didn't see me and see my struggle and accept me for who I was. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
You still
That's
not answering.
incredible.
Do you still know this person?
So,
Or you don't want to talk about it?
So yeah, I don't want to talk about it because I left. I either had to make a decision: do I want to be a nursing home administrator, right, or do I want to move on and go into the acute side? And I moved on to the acute side, and yeah. So I saw him several years ago at a restaurant, and I hit on his back, and I was like, "Hey, stranger!" And he got up, he came up and gave me a huge hug.
Oh, good.
You know, and he was just like, "Boy, do we miss you!"
Oh.
But he was a very close friend, and you know, I will always give him credit for what he's done for me.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Cool. So you got into the hospital side.
So I got into the hospital side, and my first hospital was Aventis. It was so funny. I went for the job interview. This is before navigation. I'm horrible with directions. You know, someone tells me to take, 295. I have to ask the question, is that TO 95 or is that the number 295,
Sure.
Right.
So my husband took me to the interview, and my interview, it was like 4 hours long. And my husband was like, did they pay you for today?
Yeah, that's a long
But
time.
he was so energetic, and he was so happy to have someone to talk about, different things
Sure.
and so forth. And I did get the job there, and I loved Aventis. I was there for like 2.5 years. I was nice and happy. And then one day this headhunter called me and said, hey, we have another job. Your name came up, and I was just like, oh, I'm not interested, to the point I put a sticky on the phone because I didn't want to take the calls. She was calling me so much. And I said, you know what? What's the worst can happen? I could brush up on my interview skills.
Sure.
So I went to the interview at the corporate office,
Yeah.
cocky, like, oh, I'm not here. I don't want this job. Oh, just here. And I started talking. They were like, do you mind coming back? And I was like, sure, I can come back.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then I was
Fit
like,
the
wait a
schedule.
minute. Then I was like, wait a minute. The corporate office is less than 10 minutes from my house. This is great.
Oh, no.
So now I'm interested, right? So I went back for the second interview. Interview went good. And then they said, do you mind meeting the CEO? And I said, sure. They were like, well, you're going to have to go to Baltimore for that. And I said, Baltimore?
Like, I'm
Why
from
would I have to go to Baltimore? They were like, oh, that's where the job is. I'm like, wait, I thought this was
Right here.
right here. And they're like, no, it's in Baltimore. I went and I interviewed with the CEO, Dr. Samuel Ross, great CEO, retired now. And he interviewed me. He goes, I'm just like getting to meet you, and you basically have the job. But if you don't take the job, what would be one of the reasons? And I said, the area, that Bon Secours, Baltimore, one of the poorest hospitals in Baltimore, high crime, high drugs. I wasn't used to that, right? So I'm coming from Adventist in Rockville, Maryland, right? So so I'm telling you, best decision I've ever made. I love the patients. I love the people that work there. I worked at Bon Secours for 12 years. I mean, I learned everything from being humble to try to help our community with like just water and just place to charge their phones and things of that nature. So
That's why you like the Tommy shoot. We were talking about Tommy.
Yeah.
yeah,
Last night.
because
Tommy's trying to
the
do
Medicaid,
something.
yeah, because the Medicaid,
Yeah.
the uninsured population is near and dear to my heart, right? And when presumptive eligibility came out, I jumped on that, and I used to sit on the Medicaid advisory, and I rolled that out to get our community temporary Medicaid as soon as possible because that was able to get them covered for
Right.
medications and their care and things of that nature. So, yeah, you're right. That's the reason. That's one of the reasons why I really like
that
Tommy.
makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
interesting. So you were
Yeah.
at Bon Secours for a while.
So I was at Bon Secours for a while. Bon Secours merged with Mercy Cincinnati, right? And when the merger came, the revenue cycle went under Ensemble. Ensemble was very kind to me. They offered me a position, and I kindly turned it down. And I left, and I started my own consulting company. And I had four,
Yay.
I had four clients. It was amazing. I left Bon Secours on a Friday. In the airport on my way to vacation, I got a phone call in the line going into the plane saying, "Hey, I heard you just left Bon Secours." And I said, "I did." They were like, "Do you mind coming to work for me?" I said, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm starting my own company." They were like, "I know that.
Yeah.
And I still want you to come work for us." So I secured my first contract with SSM Health.
Okay.
And I had was there for several years. I had after that I had vendors, and I had a provider, and just amazes me how many companies are struggling in this space. You know, it's almost like they don't know what they don't know. And I was stuck in that world for 12 years. I didn't realize that the world out there was struggling in some kind of way to collect on their bills.
Oh, for sure.
And I was like, "Well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" And they were like, "Well, we didn't know we had to do that and this." So it became like second nature to me. So I did that for 2.5 years, and got a phone call from a respected person that was my former boss in my journey, and she kept on asking me questions, and I was like, "Yeah, that's no good." She just started, she's CFO, and you know, she was asking me revenue cycle questions and things of that nature, and she said, "Why don't you can you just come and just take a peek or, you know, apply here?" And I was like, "Why would I do that? Why would I do that?
Why would I leave this
Right.
wonderful life I've
Why
built?
would I leave that?"
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then
I'm still asking this question, but okay, I
yeah.
hope you have an answer.
yeah, so yes, I did decide to leave my own company and go work for WellSpan. And you know, sometimes I'm torn because I don't know what could have been, because you know, when you know, COVID had hit,
Yeah,
things had
changed
happened.
things.
So
Yeah.
normally when that happens, vendors are the first as cut, right? So, but I don't know if that would have happened, right? So I've learned a lot. WellSpan had lots of opportunities. I was very privileged that I had a write-up just recently in the Beckers.
Saw that.
Yeah, so I was
Another
happy.
famous
Another
person in
famous
front of us.
person.
With
I don't know
Nikki
about
was in the
famous.
cover,
No,
not
I
Donna.
don't know about famous. I have a great team. I built my team from scratch. My team, I always say I love my team. My team goes, "Yeah, Donna, we know you love us, and we have the tag to prove it," because I accidentally said I love you on that Christmas gift one time when it was delivered.
Nice.
and they joke around with that, but you know, I love building great teams. I love making a difference, right? But Ben, we talked about this. You know what I struggle with most, right? You know, it's the politics of the whole thing, right? You know, if I can pick up the reason why I like consulting so much is because I love revenue cycle.
Well, you don't have to deal with any of it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I'm just here to tell you what to do.
Yeah. I love revenue cycle. It's my passion. This is all I know. I like going after the insurance carriers. I just love the whole energy of it, right? But it's the politics that really drains me. Yeah.
What would you say your like leadership style is? Like Donna is a leader. What is that like?
Yeah.
What would your people say about it?
Yeah, so I challenge my people to the utmost. I expect the very best from my folks. Anyone underneath my leadership, I want them to pad their resume. They're going to learn as much as possible, but I'm always going to be in their corner. I'm not going to send them out to the wolves by themselves, right? I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, Ben, you're going to have to do a presentation at 2 o'clock. Good luck. I'm going to be there with you, right? So I laugh and goes, oh, no, if you're going down a dark alley for a fight, I'm there behind you. So I just got my employee surveys from Prescaney, and my direct reports, if my memory serves me correctly, was like a 4.93 out of 5. And I have over 2,400 employees that report up to me, and my overall score is 4.03.
Oh, wow, that's great.
I walked in, and I've inherited different departments over the years. So I'm fair, and everyone has grown underneath my leadership. And if you can't, that's okay too, because we all have options. And sometimes it's hard to have the difficult talk to say, this is not for you. What made you decide to move here? Maybe I can fit you somewhere else that you're striving to,
you're better suited for.
Because everyone wants a job, right? And folks that are promoted never want to say, I don't know the job,
Right.
And sometimes when you have a job, I'm like, why does that person have the job? They have no clue what they're doing. Let's have the right fit so we can be successful instead of, we got all these people faking it, right? So, so my leadership style, I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. I pride myself on building, just building people up, right? And doing more closed doors kind of conversations, because in the open, I never want to put someone down or embarrass anyone or things like that nature. But after a meeting, I'll say, we got to talk about next steps. Yeah.
Last night we talked about, back to the politics thing.
Yeah.
Because I think part of this is I've not just had this theory. I think we've had lots of feedback. In fact, at some of our forums, we've done things to help with this. But that most rev cycle leaders aren't good at telling their own story.
Yeah.
And it's not a skill that just for Tina, she's a storyteller, right? So she writes books and tells a story.
And she'll talk.
And she'll talk.
Talk.
But that's not a skill that's that sometimes that's just naturally part of someone, but as a talent. But it's also it's not a skill we teach.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
So, because in the political world you're in, you're going to get a fair amount of how good are you at telling your story. It actually dictates a fair amount of how much political capital you have. So how do you navigate that now? And then how do we as rev cycle leaders get better? That's
of telling our story?
Yes, because I don't think we do it very well.
And when you say telling our story, meaning all of our success that we're having, or the good, the bad, the ugly?
Either way, people think it's a black box.
Yeah, but think about this, right? I had a CFO once told me, she used to come to me and she used to ask me questions. And I was like, why do you keep on coming to me? She goes, because I know you'll tell me the truth. Sometimes people are afraid to be transparent, to tell the truth when things are not going well, because it's not received very well. So sometimes people just go and tell all the great things. My journey at WellSpan wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I can tell the story now, the success story, but it was nights that I stayed up what did I just walk into? how can I have a call center that 50% of my call center can call out at any time because they're on medical leave or a vacancy rate? How am I going to answer the calls from the patients? I had patients walking into practices. All of these are real-time problems that I had to solve overnight. But this is where you build your team. And I think the story comes from like the employee engagement and what people say about your partnership in other departments and things of that nature. And you're right. I don't go around and say all the great stuff and how did we get from 0 to here. And maybe, I don't know how we turn that corner, Ben. I don't know. Yeah, you're thinking. What are you thinking about?
No, I'm just trying to process a little bit. I think there's often this like, you can't be a truth teller because you actually don't have enough political capital, or you haven't built it up enough, and then you don't feel confident in yourself. So you don't feel like you have enough to be in the job, then you're not going to tell people like things are not going well. Here's actually, so you're going to hide it. So I find often, like, I just had this conversation with a friend. The CFO asked him he's over pharmacy, right? Doesn't know anything about wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, to a degree, right? Doesn't know anything. He's like, my CFO like asked me to participate, go check out the reps because all we get from them is like, it's all fine. But we know it's not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I just told him, I was like, yeah, that's classic.
Yeah.
Because they probably already are feeling like they don't belong in the role because what it was is a director that got promoted, right? So she had billing and now she's got this. And you could just see it. I don't even know them, and I know enough to be like, it's probably a little bit of like, what's the
imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, where you like, because if you've read, there's some studies out there that kind of like, when they survey the top 100 Fortune 100 CEOs, if they do it anonymously, it's the number one issue they all identify. It's like 70% of them will say they don't belong in their role. So the Fortune 100, people like probably went to Wharton and right, like these are the people that say they don't belong in the role. So you can see this happening at large scale and like lots of fun. So I do think there's this aspect of like we put those people in that role, and there wasn't a mentor to help them be like, and the CFO doesn't really understand it. No. So most times, right? So the CFO's being like, well, yeah, Donna, what's going on in there? Because they don't actually know. Right. So I do think there's this weird spot there that they're put in that they actually like, it's just easier to be like, well, you guys just don't understand that.
Yeah. And, and for me, I've tried, and it's like a balancing, right? Because when you do tell the story, you acquire more work sometimes too, right? So you go out and you go, oh, this is broken. This is not working. And it was like, oh, well, what do you think? Well, I think you should do this. Well, good project for you, So it's a balance. It's a balance.
Well, I think too, like a lot of people. For people, I think I used to have this, and I feel confident saying about it. Is that like a drop of fear like poisons the whole well? So if you are afraid or have any kind of like uncertainty about where you are and what you're doing, that if you say it out loud, like, oh no. Yeah. But honestly, most of the time saying it out loud relieves all of those things. Yeah. And that's why I know I can say that, because that's what works. Right? So saying it out loud is like, wow, I faced this problem and I maybe didn't quite know what to do. And I tried 5 different approaches and it turned out that approach number 4 was the right approach, right? Yeah. But nobody wants to take the first step to say, I had this problem and I didn't know what to do. And I had to ask for help. Yeah. And that is terrifying, because asking for help for me was also very, because I'd do it my own self, right? I was like a 4-year-old, I'll do it myself. And
that's
so just even like, I think, so you start in a scared, you're fearful, and then you're also are like, and also now I'm weak because I have to ask for help. So I think there's those like little drops of things, and they could be small, but they really do poison the way you're able to present yourself.
But this is why people hire consultants that are above. Yeah. Because they ultimately like, well, that person will tell me the truth, and they're not bogged down by this other thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But even as a consultant, I was rarely in a spot where it was like I didn't feel comfortable telling my opinion.
Yeah.
Which isn't like necessarily good. I'm just saying, like, that was an interesting role for me because I was always like, well, yeah, you should have an opinion on this.
Yeah. And you raise a good point, Ben, because I will tell you a turning point at WellSpan. We had a vendor in, and it was like a whole year. And I came in and I was on a meeting and they were talking as if they were in Go Live. And I was like, I'm so sorry. How long have this been going on? They were like, oh, we've had this relationship for a year. I said, but you're talking like it's still in the Go Live. And they said, no, yeah, we've been having problems. And I was like, why are we tearing this down? They were like, yeah, this is a CEO initiative. I said, well, has anyone told the CEO? Because this is a bust. This is wasting valuable man and women hours and money and everything else. And they were like, yeah. And I spoke to the gentleman at the time who was leading, and he goes, Donna, let me just say this to you. I know you're new, but you don't go against senior leadership. This is what he told me.
Culture.
And I
Inherent
said,
culture, right?
and I said, if I don't say anything, shame on me. If I say something and everyone tells me no, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to forget, I met with the CFO and the CEO, and I told them all the problems that we're having. And the CEO says, I don't understand, Donna. Why are we still moving forward with this? And I said, would you like me to tell you the truth or the political reason? She goes, no, I want the truth. I said, they said it's because of you.
You said it was going to.
And she
and
said,
the culture
and you know what
yeah.
she said? She said, absolutely not. I wanted the best of the best for my patients, and we had nothing, and no one gave me nothing. Mm-hmm. So I gave them an option. She goes, if someone would have given me something, then I would have had option. All she wanted was options, you know? And when someone doesn't give you any options, then you get stuck, right? But I was luckily, they trusted me enough to tear it down and rebuild it. So.
But it is one of those things where as a leader, you have to start figuring out what those inherent, like unwritten rules are within the culture to be able to break that down.
Yeah.
Because as a CEO, which it's hard to say that I am now, but I am, you have to be careful with like, if I tell someone to go do something, and this has happened to me a couple of times where I'm like, I told one of our people, I was like, hey, I just sent an article. Is this a really interesting article? It should be worth pursuing. Next thing I know, that person's like, and within like an hour had done a ton of work on it and and I was like, whoa. I didn't want, I was just sending it for information. I didn't want you. And then Helen's yelling at me, you can see this happening. Helen's like, what are you doing? I didn't give it like a thing. I just was like wanting them to like know. It was interesting. It's like, so, but it's also the unwritten rules of the organization, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't push back on senior leaders.
Yeah. So it was definitely a culture thing, and, so yeah.
I don't know. It's a fascinating subject because I do feel like rev cycle is one of those areas that is on the side, right? It's an ancillary. It's a non-revenue producing unit. It's patient care, but it's not patient care.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's solid until it's not.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
And when it's not, it's too late. When there's a
problem,
problem,
apt observation.
When it's a problem in your revenue cycle,
it's like a toddler.
Exactly.
It's exactly.
He's already all over the wall.
Exactly. And this is the reason, everyone talks about this AI and I will never be able to put people to all the work. It's just, everything's just moving too fast. Too many denials, coming back too fast, too many touches for coding, just too much going on. We have to bring in, AI technology in order to bridge the gap, to move faster. Yeah,
we had a whole conversation with Nikki about it, trying to figure out how you make it to the next thing. And
yeah.
It's not going to be easy, but we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah. So I'm here and I'm having fun and, get to meet good people like both of you guys, Tina and Ben.
I was happy to see that.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to travel too far from home.
I didn't have to travel too far. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Anything else?
I think that was good. It was right.
great.
Good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fun. It was great hearing your story. It's amazing.
Really?
That's
I
my.
wondered-
Wait, are
now
you
I'm gonna
close with
drop a
your? Are you
question.
close with your brothers and sister? Are you
I-
sisters? Your sisters, or do you have a
So I
brother?
have one brother. I have one brother and 4 sisters.
And where were you?
I
in
was
the order?
I'm the youngest of 5.
So
you
they
can
were out of
imagine.
cash.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
yeah.
Hence they're
They,
all
and they're
cash
a
is
lot older than me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
what's the age gap?
Well, my older sister is 13 years older than me.
Oh, that's a
yeah,
big age.
yeah. They're all in their 60s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was actually wondering do you think the reason and this might be true because you do have much older siblings and you are the youngest of a somewhat large family,
Yeah.
that you feel confident to speak the truth to power, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
was
I
here.
think that comes from my mom.
Yeah, it feels like
my mom was a trailblazer, and
very
you know,
highly for her.
yeah, my mom. I know you had said your mom had just recently passed. My mom last year had a stroke on April the 1st and passed like 5 days later. She was a trailblazer. She didn't put up with anybody's crap. You know, I go buy a used car and they try to charge me for a side mirror, and she's like, "Take it off, take it off." And they're like, "What do you mean take it off?" Because like, I'm not paying for a side mirror on a used car. Take it off or I'll take it off for you. You know, she didn't put up with any crap. So
No.
it really set the tone to energize me to speak up when something is going wrong, or to help other people, and to speak up for other people who can't speak for themselves. You know, for our employees who doesn't have that opportunity to speak up,
No,
you know,
it's on us.
it's on
That's right.
us to do
That's
that.
right.
You know, that's what makes a good lead. I mean, I love to be a silent leader to blaze the way for my team without them even knowing it, right?
Yeah.
I'm their sponsor. I'm out there cheerleading them on, getting them FaceTime with senior leaders, you know?
That's right. Hi.
It's awesome.
We're lucky to have you, John.
I know.
Love it.
Thanks, Donna, for joining the show.
Thank
so
you
much.
I
Come back
appreciate
soon.
you.
Be great.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.